Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Organics Show. My name is Jordan. Today's episode, we are back talking all things ferments and fermentation. We have the incredible Miles Filipeli from Fermented Plant Extracts in Colorado in the US. Now, he is a regenerative ag educator. He does lots of work helping people in the community, taking talks and workshops and things like this, spreading the knowledge to help people understand how they can make their own microbial inoculants, they can make their own ferments, and they can use this wonderful natural technology that we have out there to our best advantage in the garden. Now, Miles is somebody that I've followed for quite a few years. I'm a big fan of what him and the rest of the team over there are doing in the community they're building in Colorado. So it just seemed fitting to reach out to Miles to be our first international guest here on the show. And I'm so grateful for him and his time and his knowledge. So, guys, this one's a big one. Make sure you get your pen and paper out because there is plenty of knowledge in this episode for you. So let's do it. Let's jump straight in. Here is Miles Filipelli from Fermented Plant Extracts.
Ferments are the power of them is their accessibility, and this is why not why I sell them, but why I teach how to make them because they are so low tech, and the power of their versatility and implementation. It's like it's so easy to understand how to make them and how to use them, and it's easy to impart that knowledge like from one farmer to another. And the ability to break down organic matter and turn it into plant available nutrition, whether that's in a compost pile that's assisted by the ferments or whether it's in a ferment that's the microbes are making it available. These things are so powerful in the garden, and they're also powerful in the community
Hmm.
of knowledge sharing, open source information. So I would put that they're the accessibility, which has been a big part of my mission with them, is hugely powerful to get everybody connected on the same page with it.
Yeah, that's something I really admire about you, man, is that you are all about teaching the other people or teaching everyone that there's no secrets to this. It's just this is a natural technology, so to speak, that we're tapping into. It's not necessarily your IP, my IP. It's just this is how nature works. Let's use these techniques to harness that and then share that with everybody for a little bit more freedom and sovereignty and things like that. Is that how you see it?
Exactly, precisely, well said. It's a very enabling. I'm always about education and empowerment, sharing how to make these, how to do it. Yeah, it fits really well with the um like understanding drives the usage of it, like knowing why how it works fundamentally in abstract like helps you implement it and do it and like want to use it more because you know understand how it works.
Yeah, definitely. It that really does. And from some of the talks and things that I've heard you give, I think you posted one recent one on Instagram actually that was really interesting. I loved listening to that. You're just going through all of the different techniques that people can use and have been using for a long, long time, right? It goes back to sort of KNF, Korean natural farming, the Jadam techniques. Can you talk to a little bit about the different techniques and kind of what lives under the world of ferments and that umbrella?
Sure. Well, what's really unique, or to me, kind of, I don't understand why, but the fermented plant extracts, as I teach and share, and as was taught to me by various sources, that I always share, Eric Lancaster, Terraganics, and Gil Carandang of the unconventional farmer, both were my like original sources,
Awesome.
and these, um, the the knowledge of them came to me, and I share it openly. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, yeah, that's okay.
um,
I'm just like what's under the
well,
umbrella in terms of the ferments and
okay.
how and that knowledge.
Yeah. So what's really unusual that I don't understand is that they don't really fall, these ferments don't fall under any umbrella of KNF or Jadam or of Cayusi natural farming was one that was early on, or it's not a biodynamic thing.
Hmm.
They really have their own like niche for some reason. And Korean natural farming and Jadam both come very close with some of their preparations, but none of them are this recipe using sugar, water, plant matter, and lactobacillus as I
Yeah.
always teach and share, and as was taught to me.
Yeah.
So for some reason they fit into all these like you could use them with Jadam, you could use them with KNF, you can use them in biodynamics and in that and just or traditional organics,
Yeah.
but they aren't like part of the like canon or part of the like expressed taught parts of KNF or Jadam.
Right.
So
Okay.
so
Are
yeah,
they
I've
using,
run with it.
sorry to interrupt. Are they using this
No.
like a similar technique whereby we're using an anaerobic or an aerobic fermentation? Is that the idea still?
Yes. Well, the concept with all these things is that we're creating a microbial population and giving it a very specific food supply. Um,
Mm.
in the case of ferments, we're using lactobacillus as the microbial population and plant matter and a little bit of sugar as the food supply. Like
Yeah.
in a compost tea, you would just use a compost as the inoculant. So all the microbes from the compost would be present and maybe a little tiny bit of sugar or some kelp or some alfalfa meal, something else as a microbial food supply.
Hmm.
In Jadam, they use soil, similar like some compost or some rich soil or leaf mold as the
Yeah.
inoculant. So all the microbes present in that rich soil are your inoculant, and the food supply is a plant matter. They don't use any lactobacillus added or any sugars.
Mm-hmm.
In the Korean natural farming preps, they do very similar things with sugars extracting nutritive properties out of wet fruit and not wet, but juicy, moisture
Yeah,
laden
they kind of
material.
like throw all the sugar on and let this liquid come off, right? And then they're using that, and they can use the two separately, the fruit and the liquid. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
They
So
also use acetic acid microbes, like vinegar microbes, to do that extraction as well in KNF.
yes, that's right. That's right. Okay. So all of these things are, yeah, basically we're trying to have something that we're taking the microbial population from, whether it's the EM1, lactobacillus, or we've got the soil, compost, whatever. Um, and then we've also got the food that helps them multiply. In the case of a fermented plant extract, right, we've got the lactobacillus. We then use blackstrap molasses, for example, as the food. But then we've got this plant material that we're using to break down and extract the nutrients from. Is that right? Is that how that process is working in a plant extract?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The nutritive qualities from the plant matter are being imparted into the liquid solution by way of microbial digestion. So
Beautiful.
yeah, we're using the inoculant to break down the plant matter.
Yeah. Okay. And I actually recently made one. So I was it's still sitting in the bucket outside, and I literally just checked it the other day, and my homemade uh, gas escape seal was a little terrible. But for the most part, I have a really sweet smelling full bucket of delicious liquid, but there's this tiny kind of film layer on the top, which is obviously a little bit of oxygen that's gotten into that system. Um, Before we talk about maybe the things that can go wrong, what to look for in terms of like, dropping pH and things like that. When I'm doing that and when I chose the plants that I wanted to use for this extract, I went round the garden and I was looking at some of the weed species that were popping up because these are pioneer species in the ground that are coming into the soil for a reason to provide some sort of benefit to that soil to move it along. I was taking some of my diverse cover crop that I was using for a bit of diversity. But then I was also having a look at whether or not the plant was in a vegetative stage or in a flowering and fruiting stage. Can you talk to the choice of plants or materials and why we might use some of those different materials?
Sure. The basic rules are something vigorous and fast growing. Like
Okay.
you want something strong. You don't want to use sickly plants or plants that aren't like really prime.
Hmm.
So you want to use plants that are like vigorous and fast growing in your region, or in your garden or wherever they are found.
Like comfrey,
So
nettle.
those are great. Yeah. And well, okay, and also okay, so that's like if you're collecting, like in terms of like plants we know, like
Hmm.
there's plants we know about, like willow. We know willow water is good for cloning. So like I made a willow FPE and it works well for treating mothers before you clone them, treating
Cool.
clones. Like um I used a tobacco one as like kind of like a pesticidal as like a because tobacco water is known to kill bugs. So
Wow.
you can, and same way, nettles and comfrey. Like we know these are nutrient dense plants. They're used in biodynamics that we know they have these awesome properties for plant medicine, for human health. So they obviously are going to be good for microbial health
Hmm.
because human health is our stomachs are also like microbial fermenters in there. We have a lot of like some of the same species in our stomachs that are found in the soils
Yeah.
to aid with those breakdowns. So the soil stomach, so to speak, the nutritive cycling process that happens in the soil isn't that foreign to our own system. So when we know a plant is good for us in a certain way, we can also take that plant knowledge, that plant medicine knowledge or food knowledge, and apply it to microbial action as well. So yeah, comfrey and nettles fit into that category.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautifully.
and same with plant nutrition, like carrots being high in all these good things, good for your eyes, all this different stuff. Carrots are extremely nutrient dense. They have all kinds of good properties. They're great for fermenting too.
Hmm.
And also like makes like. So fruit for fruit. A carrot is a fruit, but it's also a root. So it's going to be good for bulking and making good sized fruit and flower onset and all this kind of stuff. But it's also going to be good for root development and for young plants that need to expand their root systems to expand their leaf systems as
Mm.
well. So there's a lot of different things you can take into like any kind of knowledge base that you have surrounding a plant or a set of plants or plants in the garden or plants you have access to or plant matter like groceries,
Yeah.
spoiling food, all kinds of different stuff that you can have access to and knowledge about that you can like inform your decisions of what to ferment, how to ferment it, where and how to implement those ferments on a farm or in a garden.
Yeah, okay. And that makes a lot more sense. Thank you. And if, say for example, when you've got you've got your garden, whatever you're going to be using these extracts on, there there is something to be said about the timing in terms of which one to use when, right? Because of, say, if we've got a plant that's just about to produce fruit, we would can't come in and put some fruit extract on there. Or if we want something to develop roots, like you said, or be trying to develop lots of green, vigorous vegetative growth, is there a point to picking the right ferment for the right application?
Um, yes, on like the connoisseur level,
Right.
yes. Like if you just want to grow a nice healthy garden and you only make one ferment and you throw everything in there, if you throw veg material and fruit and plants and everything in it, and you just make an all-purpose ferment, that's going to improve the quality of your garden.
Mm,
You
mm.
know, that's going to help you even if you're being indiscriminate in the way that you're describing.
Yeah.
But if you already are a gardener and you're doing really well and you really want to see like that next level of quality, that real flavorful the
Mm,
different unique differences between different types of tomatoes or different types of mints, different varieties of flowers and see the vibrancy of their uniqueness, that's when you start doing what you're talking about is what we call and was taught to me by a friend Jace, touched by cannabis, nutrioperiodism. And this is
right.
about feeding a certain set of nutrition based on the plant's needs at its certain growth cycle.
Hmm.
So, like when you have an understanding of your target crop, when you've grown the same thing over and over and over, and you really understand how that crop operates when it's a baby, what it needs, when it's as a seedling, as
Hmm.
a growing vegetative plant, and when it starts to put on its flower set and make fruit or make vegetables, that's when you can identify its specific needs at those different times, and
Yeah.
even anticipate them a little bit and say, oh, I know you're about to start doing this, so I'm going to start feeding you in that way because I know what's coming maybe better than the plants are just chugging along, but they know what's about to happen. We all know what's about to happen.
Yeah, that's right. And like I talk about having a good battery of soil in terms of and I think Jeremy shares a very similar thing at Builder Soil, just having a bigger volume of soil that is somewhat of a buffet that can provide all of the things microbially and plant nutrient availability wise to the plant when it needs it. So for example, when our citrus is just going into fruit at the moment, and a lot of the time we know that that means we need more potassium or we need more phosphorus, for example, for this flower and fruit set. So coming in with these fruit ferments, for example, are they higher in those nutrients of phosphorus, potassium that are gonna impact that, or is it just more like um, that's the microbial population, or I suppose it's not the microbial population because that's all the same if you're using EM1 for the same thing, but it's the nutrients contained in the liquid would be higher in certain instances in certain like phosphorus, potassium, for example. Have I made that
It
clear or have
depends
I
on the
confused you?
No, I totally get it. And you're asking about like how, by what function is that happening
Yeah.
of like the nutrioperiodism? Is it like nutritive NPK,
Yes.
or it is, I think, depending on the fruit or the flowers depending on what you're fermenting, if what you're fermenting is high in, because some fruit aren't high in
Yeah.
potassium
True.
and phosphorus, but some are. So if you're fermenting something that's higher in those, and sometimes like if you burn something, the ashes of it are change the nutritive qualities of things, and you can ferment
Hmm.
the ash. And there's all kinds of different ways to like inform yourself about the not only your target crop but what you're fermenting. And that's another thing is, if you then this is a concept in Jadam. If you are growing sweet potatoes, like, and you have a bunch of sweet potato crop residue from, like, say, last year, or slips you didn't plant, like, feeding a plant, it's the healthy version of itself, like
Mm.
plant cannibalism, so to speak,
Yep.
is like almost a surefire way of providing the nutrition that's necessary to the target crop.
Mm.
Um, but okay, so that's the nutritive side of it.
Hmm.
The other side of it is a little bit like pre-scientific, like there's an information exchange, and I talk about
Mm.
this sometimes, where like anytime you exchange energy, like, which nutrition is energy,
Hmm.
you're also exchanging information. Like,
Yes.
anytime there's an information exchange, there's also an energy exchange, and anytime there's an energy exchange, there's an information exchange. So,
Yeah.
and we don't really fundamentally understand how this happens in all cases with plants, but there are compounds that ferments produce that are known to, like, be plant communicators. I just
Mm.
posted about a study about this not long ago. The compounds are called lactones,
Yeah,
and they come
cool.
from lactobacillus, and they serve some function to, like, communicating um the microbial population and the root zone. And
Mm.
this is another way that the ferments can contribute in that nutrioperiodistic way to communicate with the plants, usher in
Mm.
the next stage of growth before the plants are, like, to kind of prepare the plants for ripening, or prepare them for like explosive vegetative growth or
Mm.
heavy fruit set.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we're biohacking the plant world almost, knowing what's happening, and we're kind of just like giving it the best case scenario when it's there. Um,
Yep.
in a lot of my talks and workshops, I try and get people to understand the concept of observing what happens out in nature and how we can utilize those processes in the garden. For example, in a forest floor situation, you have a big mulch layer that comes from the dropping of organic matter fruits, insects, blah blah blah, creating this mulch layer where the roots are coming up, the microbes, worms, all taking it down, breaking it down, and in some cases fermenting it, right? And bringing it down into the soil, turning it into available nutrients and creating that cycle. And often the tree itself or the plant itself, what it drops is then going to be the best nutrition being worked into the soil for that plant again, right? So that goes off what you were saying with the choosing the healthiest version of itself. It's sort of self-perpetuating, self-feeding itself. Do you find that that's kind of what we're tapping into? We're sort of taking what's actually already happening in that mulch layer where it's being broken down and the microbial populations are being stimulated. We're sort of taking that, doing it separately, and then adding it back in just volume, right?
Yeah, we're both doing it separately and encouraging it to happen at in that
Cool.
mulch layer of our target crop as well, because like ultimately like the main goal of growing natural organic is to create that active decomposition happening right at the feeder root surface
Hmm.
layer. That's why we mulch, that's why we do cover crop chop and drop.
Yeah.
This is why, people mix their amendments into compost before laying them down so that and the ferments, when you add lactobacillus, when you add fermented plant extracts to that mulch layer, that surface, you're like encouraging the lactobacillus to break down that mulch layer and apply the nutrition directly to the soil, to the feeder roots at the surface of the soil. So
Mm,
yeah, we're definitely creating we're doing biomimicry in so many different ways,
yeah.
both in our fermenting vessel and encouraging it to happen at the root zone of our crops.
Yeah, beautiful. That makes a lot of sense. Well, that's really, really good. Let's go back to my first attempt at a proper ferment, a fermented plant extract, right? What do you think has happened with my terrible airlock device on the top, which was literally just a hose and some duct tape that I put into a little milk bottle on the side. But was there a little bit of oxygen exposure there? Obviously, we're trying to keep it mostly anaerobic using the EM1, the lactobacillus, which I got from Cam, obviously at Organic Ferments, the legend over there. So he sent me some of that. So shout out to him. Um, but yeah, what do you think's going on there? How do I tell whether it's still good? And what am I expecting to see if it has gone right?
I like you're always going to have some oxygen in the headroom of your vessel.
Okay.
Um, so like it doesn't sound as if there's a failure there. It just sounds like a little bit of contamination.
Hmm.
And generally, when I like strain these things off, I drain them from the bottom. So
Yeah.
I'm like emptying from the bottom, not the top. So I don't, if you're emptying from the top, you have to like scoop down through that pellicle layer.
Mm,
And what's happening there is that there's some people mistake it for a SCOBY, but it's a pellicle, which is basically like the lactobacillus is almost creating like the rind on a cheese, almost like where it's like
mm,
a barrier between the oxygenated air headspace in the vessel and the anaerobic fermentation happening in the liquid.
mm,
So yeah, it's just like a barrier, and if it's like not like crazy colors, if it's white, you're
hmm.
good. If it's like
Yeah.
white and bubbly looking, that's
Hmm.
almost like what they're supposed to look like. Even under perfectly airlocked conditions, you're
Right.
gonna get it's when you get like gray, brown, green, red, yellow, black molds growing on top of that pellicle layer. That's when you're like, oh, something got in here, something crazy
Yeah.
extra got in here. But honestly, like, I mean, that doesn't happen to my batches, like my commercial batches,
Hmm.
but I've seen it on batches where like we strained off the bottom and checked it and everything, and it looked fine. It was like the liquid inside. It was just that the pellicle had formed, and then contamination happened, and stuff started growing on top of the pellicle, but the fermentation inside the liquid was still fine.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
as if that matches a little bit better. I've got the tap on the bottom because I do a lot of bokashi composting, so I've repurposed one of these buckets, scrubbed it out, and used that. So I got the tap on it, which is really cool. Hey guys, really quickly, jumping in, I just want to remind you, if you are not subscribed to this show, that is the number one thing that you can do to show me your support. So if you're finding value from this conversation and you're deeply engaged, I would love you to hit the follow or subscribe button. All right, back to the show. I've heard you talk about this black sort of ring or circle that goes around the outside if it's gone bad. Is that something to look out for as well?
It is. It's not super common. It's like it happens in storage,
Hmm.
um, or like if the food supply really is like just done
Yeah.
and it gets contaminated from the outside, and it's like it's basically like a colony collapse of your lactobacillus and something else moves in on them. And
Right. Yeah.
um,
Okay.
yeah, I've honestly not even seen it on my product in years at this point.
Oh, that's good.
Um, and I don't get many people like showing me that. Like when
Yeah.
people have problems with their ferments and they send me a picture or something, it's like very rarely ever that people have that issue.
Okay. And so the
A
more
lot of
common one
times
is the
somebody
colored stuff.
so the pellicle and
Yeah.
the yeah, that's like when people let them sit really, but that's not even like a failed batch necessarily. It's like, ooh, nasty. As long as you're not emptying from the top, as long as you can drain from the bottom, there's a good chance it's still good.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot like so I've heard people like where they want it to be sweet in the end. They want it to be kind of like a cidery smell at the end, and I'm kind of like cool, but that's sugar, and I like them a little bit more bunky, and I think that's where you get the higher nutritive. I'm pretty certain that's where you get the higher nutritive content.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Okay.
the black ring is no good, and the molds are growing on top of the pellicle and are
That's no,
not ideal.
yeah. Okay. So, apart from that, what are some other things that we're looking for a successful one versus a not successful one? And one thing I just want to talk about is pH in this.
So yeah, so lactic acid bacteria create their own environment. They create a lactic acid slurry, and lactic acid is an acid, which is a low pH.
Hmm.
So, as a lactic acid bacteria population increases, the pH of its solution will decrease.
Hmm.
And when you see 4 pH, under 4 pH, 3.5, you are in the like serum level of lactic acid. You're in um like high population, the peak population of that
Cool.
microbial population now.
Cool.
So the pH is a really good indicator.
And that's shelf stable then at that point? And for how long?
Yeah, I mean like it's it's gonna like the best shelf stable at that point is to remove the food supply.
Oh,
So
okay.
like if you don't remove the food supply, you can have like gnarly things happen and it get like funkier, and the food supply can really just kind of turn into a sludge,
Hmm.
which can become like an issue for filtering. And like shelf stability comes when you remove the food supply, because
Okay.
that's when you're kind of arresting the fermentation a little bit. Like the microbes
Yeah.
don't have any more food to consume other than like themselves, their own waste product, and
Hmm.
that's about their own
And
dead
then
cells. And
it
so,
won't be off gassing as much as well, because like obviously then it's going to explode if you haven't got some sort of off gas little thing. But
and that's another reason that you like if you leave it sweet and there's still sugar in there, you're going to get more off gassing because the microbes still have a food supply in after you've removed the plant matter. If there's still sugar in the solution, you're going to get off gassing too.
so then how would I remove the molasses from the liquid solution?
No, you're not removing it. You're waiting until the microbes have consumed it
Right.
completely.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Okay.
like, if you can still smell sweetness in that liquid, you're smelling molasses,
Mm,
and or you're smelling the sugars that are still present in there. And yeah, that's not what like that's going to be a continuing food supply. But if you really let the food supply become consumed completely and you start getting those funkier smells, that's when you know. that like the food supply, there's the long-term food supply of the plant matter,
Yeah.
like that could sit in there for months and months and months and keep feeding the microbes. But that little bit of sugar you added, that's gone in like 2, 3 weeks, four
Yeah.
weeks, like depending on your conditions. But it's pretty obvious when the sugars are gone. And I'd say that by the time you hit 3.5 or 4 pH and maybe let it sit there for a week after at that pH, or for a little bit at that pH, you shouldn't be smelling a whole lot of sweetness,
Hmm.
and you should be experiencing the higher microbial populations and
Perfect.
less sugars
Perfect.
and stable for like removing and
Yeah, and then
bottling and keep.
reusing it and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Well, I've had it probably a month sitting there, and it, as I said, it's got still a bit of a sweet smell underneath. So I'm gonna leave it a little bit, see if I can allow that molasses to be eaten a bit further. Um, One thing I've heard about with ferments as well is like an optimum temperature range. Now, we had a crankingly hot day of 37 degrees Celsius, which I think is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what the conversion is. I'm terrible with the temperature, but it was very, very, very hot yesterday. And, lots of fires broke out, all of this kind of thing. Normally, we're told 24, 25, or somewhere in the early 20s in terms of conversion. Can you tell us a little bit about temperature range? Please feel free to speak in Fahrenheit. I'm going to go and look up the conversion right now so that we can get this accurate. But what's the temperature range optimums?
So anything above 45 Fahrenheit is good. Like if you're below 45 Fahrenheit, you're gonna be like really slow
Yeah,
and
so that's
like
7 degrees
dangerously.
Celsius for those listening. So 45 Fahrenheit is 7 degrees, so very cold. So anything above
Yeah, like
seven.
that's low end. Like you don't want to be fermenting below 7 Celsius.
Okay.
Um for as far as like hot goes, if you're just having hot days like that, it's okay. Like put it in the shade or
Mm.
like put it in a cool. So like I always tell people to ferment in a location where you can kind of be versatile with it. For outdoor season, like just under a shed or in a shady spot under a tree, like that's great.
Yeah.
You don't have to go crazy with it. And if it gets hot, what you're experiencing or what you're going to experience is the loss of microbial diversity by way of losing like the less heat tolerant
Yeah.
microbes and species.
Okay.
So the same way with cold. Like in a cold snap, you're going to lose some diversity. Um, and in the loss of that diversity, you lose a little population, and the less like the microbes that survived, the more cold tolerant or heat tolerant microbes are going to fill that void of what the other and the population is going to keep growing, but you're gonna take a little dip quickly
Mm.
and lose some diversity probably permanently. So whenever I just had this question with somebody asking about like it's getting cold and my tank is gonna freeze. Is this a big problem? And I'm like, it's not ideal. Like
Mm.
my commercial batches never freeze, but on the farm, like if I have a batch that freezes, it becomes a farm batch, and come spring, I just re-inoculate it with a little bit of my original EM1 whey, whatever
Mm-hmm.
labs I have, re-inoculate the batch to add back that diversity and go time. Maybe
Yeah.
if you really wanted to add a little bit of sugar in there to get them going again to re-inoculate with as a fast food supply, when it thaws out or like when the temperature comes back down after you have that heat spike in the environment, you can re-inoculate quickly. If you're going to use it immediately, just re-inoculate it. But if you're going to wait a little bit, you could add a little sugar too and let that break down too.
Yeah, let the population build back up. Okay. That does make sense because yeah, like we're in apparently for a beautifully hot summer of regular days up near that. Well, I think 37 point something is 100 Fahrenheit. So we're regularly going to be hitting some of that in some places. And, a lot of the farms here in Queensland and North Queensland, they have huge open pastures and it's baking in the hot sun. Um, so when farmers use this and they're using ferments on a large scale. It's so incredibly cost effective and it because you can brew them up into whatever scale, right? You can start with a relatively small inoculant and to do 1,000 liter shuttle or something, big shuttle of ferments that you can then spray out on the fields. Um, I've got a couple of things that I want to go from here. One is like when just still on that temperature, when it's out there in the fields and it's going into the soil, to me, it's highly important to have something green growing in there to reduce the temperature of that soil, to reduce the difference in there. Because I've seen empty bare fields in there with sort of 50 degree, I don't know what that is Fahrenheit, but it would be well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit temperature in the soil. But when you've got greenery on the field, the reduction in that heat because of the reflective nature of the leaves is incredible. So that would protect the microbial population a lot more, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cover cropping and like keeping land from being fallow, like keeping something growing on the soil uh is one of the like major things in natural farming in
Mm,
organics is like never let the dirt become exposed
yeah.
um or have it lay fallow I mean fallow is one thing means you're not putting a target crop on it. It doesn't mean you're not putting a cover crop to like keep something growing. And yeah, like you said that the what's it endothermic I think reaction like of photosynthesis, where it actually is drawing heat in and converting heat into matter and into plant energy, is actually like most chemical reactions give off heat.
Mm,
And like photosynthesis is one of those magical ones that actually creates coolness. Like by its reaction happening, it creates the lack of heat, the opposite. And this is why
yeah.
the shade under a nice big tree is actually cooler than the shade under like a shed.
Yes.
um, yeah, that grass or that mulch or that green mulch, that cover crop layer that we grow provides that the benefit of what you're talking about
Hmm.
is huge.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it does encourage the inoculant to take and to benefit the soil better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Especially with other microbes, like when you're using an like a mycorrhizal inoculant, the you have to, if you don't have plant roots growing,
Yeah.
there's no point in adding a mycorrhiza because it only associates directly with plant roots.
Yes.
So, and I see people doing that all the time, like spreading mycorrhiza in in barren soil, or just like mixing it into their dirt. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's not
you need
gonna do
root,
anything.
or it's not going to do anything until a root gets down
Yeah,
there, and who knows what that's going to look like by then. Yeah, so
exactly, man.
yeah.
Cool. So my other question relates to the difference between anaerobic and aerobic. Now, is it technically still a ferment if we're using aerobic means? And what are the differences in terms of microbial populations that we're developing in the two?
Okay, so lactobacillus is a facultative microaerophilic anaerobe. It they prefer oxygen deprived environments.
Hmm.
Uh, they don't like they can survive vastly outside of aerobic climates, but that's where they like really explode.
Hmm.
Um, and this is where they get kind of like a weird reputation because generally things that explode in anaerobic environments are pathogens.
Yeah, yeah.
And so to say, oh, lactobacillus explodes in an anaerobic environment is like, okay, well, we're going to lump it in with all these pathogens, even
Hmm.
though it's explicitly anti-pathogenic in almost every species of lactobacillus.
Yeah.
So that microaerophilic describes its preference for less oxygen than what's in the air, like an oxygen depleted environment, such as water, um, like little pores within the soil, but
Yeah.
even running water, dew, fog, all kinds of leaf surfaces, plant surfaces. Lactobacillus is found in all kinds of environments in nature,
Wow.
whether they're anaerobic or not.
Okay. Okay. That's really interesting. So then say obviously when we use like a compost tea or an extract, I suppose like the difference between the two is that one we're almost blasting off the microbes into the liquid solution, and one we're sort of bubbling away to create these oxygen molecules or something like this. And the differences between an aerobic and an anaerobic compost as well is a big difference. What because the where I'm coming from with this, mate, is that we've got a few people that, as you mentioned, have this sort of adverse reaction or feeling towards an anaerobic environment because it can build all of these nasties that we're trying to avoid. But the trick is to not necessarily be scared of that. And there is a difference between the two that we can stimulate for different reasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to be fair, an anaerobic ferment, um, like people will flip talking about Jadam, about JLF, like just putting water, plant matter, and dirt in a bucket and letting it smell like absolutely horrible and feeding it to plants. Like scientifically, people will tell you, like, no, that's got to be full of pathogens.
Yeah.
But practically, like, nobody is like killing their crops using JLF because of pathogens found in that anaerobic brew.
Hmm.
And it's like the level of simplicity of like literally a handful or two of rich dirt in a bucket of water and a bunch of plant matter thrown in, and you wait 30 days is like how could that go wrong or right? Like I mean, it's like it's so mystic that it works like that. Um, and but this is why I like the ferments because you are adding the lactobacillus, which is antipathogenic. It's not that it takes the mysticism out of it. And it's
Yeah.
really like, oh, this works because once you understand these microbes, you understand that like they're not going to let those pathogens ever take hold.
Hmm.
And I think with a greater understanding of compost and of rich soil, you do understand that like um there's in soil, in rich soil and compost, there's more good there's good more good microbes than bad ones. And um the proof of that again is that like people aren't poisoning their crops using compost teas.
Yeah.
Like nobody's killing plants using the wrong microbes from a bubbled compost tea.
Yeah.
Um,
Very true. That does make a lot of sense. Brother, personally, what got you into this line of work? Why are you here talking about ferments of all things? What sort of story do you have on that?
well, I mean, first I was give it up to my parents. I'm the way I am because of them. They're dope. They're like old hippie artists, like just
Love it.
really masters of their crafts at what they do. And in some circles like pretty recognized and renowned for what they've
Awesome.
done through the years and just been artists their whole lives, developed techniques, taught people, been like assets to their community in all these different ways. And I mean, like I grew up with them. They're vegetarians. So, like we had a veggie garden, big, like almost a veggie farm at times in my life where like we always had abundance and shared with our neighbors like huge amounts of lettuce and groceries, veggies, squash, cucumbers, all the
Yeah.
everything we could possibly grow in abundance. We were sharing with the community from the time I grew up, and then like I went and stayed on these like when I was a young adult, my early 20s, I went and stayed on these like yoga farming
Sweet.
communities out in NorCal that were like, well, you know, my parents had kind of like sussed out and figured out like that this is a good idea, and
Cool.
I agreed, and my specialty there, my like area of focus was the garden and these giant compost piles and making big compost piles out there
Sweet.
with some old time just traditional organic growers. Yeah, that was kind of my foundation was
Yeah.
was just the background of it having being around traditional organic growing as
Hmm.
long as I can remember.
That seems to really
And then
help, doesn't it? Hey.
oh yeah, I mean, there's nothing like immersion
Yeah.
of just
Yeah.
being around it. But then I did grow like all kinds of different ways for a long time with conventional fertilizers, pesticides, all kinds of stuff. And but the quality just isn't, it's not the same. So I came back around to these ideas of the natural way, um, by way of like simple economics. That this
Mm,
it's just when I can, if you're a farmer and this is what you do, or a gardener, grower, if you're even if you're a hobbyist and this is what you love to do, then like you want to spend more time doing it. That's the
mhm,
goal of a hobby. You love it so much you want to do more of it. So whether you're doing it for fun or for work, like the aspect of spending more time doing it is really the goal. So a little bit more time working on making your ferments, making your inputs, making your compost, working the soil, um, it pays off, and it's like what you're supposed to be doing as either the hobbyist or the professional.
mm. That's
Um,
yeah, that's
but
absolutely true,
yeah.
man. It's putting that extra bit of love and care into everything, and that comes out the other side. Um, So that's led you to what you're doing now, sharing knowledge. You're doing a lot of sort of talks and workshops and things now, and spreading the love on fermented plant extracts. What's the future looking like for you in terms of what's top of mind for you at the moment that you're thinking about and working towards?
I want to. I've been throwing events and doing good, like really fun little like community events around the country and in out here in my region in Western Colorado. And I'd really love to do another one this year, like
Sweet.
maybe a camp out type of thing. I don't know. I'd love to travel around. I want to get back to the Chicago area and do another class up there. I'd love to do something in California. Yeah, I'm just I've been working a lot on my property in the last year and just kind of like getting myself stable and my feet underneath me here more. But I'd
Cool.
love to do more community oriented stuff. I love what Matt Powers does with his soil conference.
Yes.
Um, and that's another thing. Like, there's some events like Camp Compost here,
Hmm.
and like I'd love to like because we have a really beautiful and special thing with Build a Soil with our community here.
Hmm.
At the same time, I want to like reach out to other communities and be like, yo, I fuck with you. Like I want to
Yeah.
work with you. I want to do like I love like for you reach out to me and say like, come on. I love when people reach out to me. I want to
Mm.
be more outgoing and be more like offering of myself and being like, yo, I'll just come out and talk if you could like, give me a room on a cabin or a
Yeah,
couch or something.
yeah.
I'm hotel room. I'm there. So
I
I'd
love
love
that
to like
attitude.
just integrate more with the communities around the world, whether in person or digitally, do more podcasts like this. Like this is really kind of what fills me up is sharing with people, hearing their stories.
Yeah.
And whether it's like celebrating together or commiserating the struggles together, it's like that's where we grow and build and learn and share. So I love coming together as peers and as equals and then just like learning from each other and doing these kind of events. And yeah, I've done some great events through the years. Like I love going places and being with people and interfacing with different communities. And I love working direct with farmers too. I really would like to do more like implementing of this, teaching people how to make these on their own farm
Mm.
and saying like, oh, if this is how you do things, well then like let's make it easy so you don't have to do a bunch of extra work. Like if you already got the tractor and the sprayer out for that, just like we can either tank mix the ferments right in with that or we'll do one more pass with it. And it's like implementation on larger scale would be is always like a really exciting prospect to me.
Cool. Bro, you're
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing some amazing things. Like I'd love to keep connected. Obviously, if you're ever out this way, I would absolutely love to connect with you, whether or not I can start setting up some events over here for you to bring you over, or whether we can do some virtual stuff online. My brain is ticking on that regard. So I would love to absolutely continue that on, build the community. A rising tide lifts all boats. So we should just be sharing this community around. So
Good
I really
connection.
appreciate you, mate.
Anytime.
Yeah, I really
I
appreciate.
appreciate you guys. Let's stay in touch.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Miles Filipelli, a fellow dread-headed soul that is just so kind and sweet, sharing all of his knowledge. And as I mentioned, I'm really appreciative for his time that he took to share this knowledge with us and our audience here in Australia. We do have a bit of an international audience, so it is relevant to all the people around the world. And this technology can be utilized by everyone around the world, creating their own ferments for their gardens. And as Miles said, it builds such incredible diverse soil life that we just then have better quality plants, better quality nutrition for ourselves and our communities afterwards. So hopefully you'll see a little bit more of Miles and connected through the channel in the future. I definitely plan to stay in touch, and I'm super grateful to you guys for listening. If you learned something, if you are appreciative of this conversation, share it around, share the episode. Let us know in the comments section which parts you enjoy, what your experience is with these ferments. And then, obviously, any kind of review on the show really helps us to find more people who can discover some of this wonderful information. So I'm really grateful to you, the listener, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon on the next episode. Bye for now.